I'll go back further.
Yeah.
Down. Do you want me to turn around real quick?
Maybe do that. Yeah, we got excellent connection now, it says. Okay, yeah, now it's doing fine. Excellent connection. Yeah, just kind of drive back and forth on this little strip, honestly.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, guys, sorry about that. Some technical issues. We're here. What are we in? Mount Pleasant?
Mount Pleasant, Texas.
Mount Pleasant, Texas, and despite being right off a major interstate, it does not have great cell service, at least on AT&T. We're using Verizon now, seem to be doing quite a bit better, still maintaining a good connection. So apologies for those who followed the link and were led to a stream of us trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Sometimes with these field operations, you can't plan everything, and stuff like that just is going to happen. But we'll be sure to share this on social, so those of you who missed it will be able to take a peek at it. Regardless, we're looking at Hurricane Delta here, which is now a Category 3 hurricane. It's looking a little bit more disorganized than it was a few hours ago. We had a really nice, well-defined eye with convection around more than just this western side, but all the convection or large thunderstorm development, you can think of it as kind of focused here on this western side of the storm. For it to strengthen, we would want to see that come all the way around on the eastern side. And we actually do have some indication of that right now. The latest scan, you can see these kind of tops or these bright colors, the white and the pink, kind of blowing up right here on that eastern side. That's a good thing as far as strengthening, and the pressure is still decreasing. We've got a recon data flight in there right now. Let's see if they've extrapolated any pressure. Does not look like it, but they are getting flight level winds of over 100 knots. So this thing is still strengthening, and it's still in an environment that it can continue to strengthen for probably the next 6 to 12 hours before it gets to those cooler waters that we talked about on the last stream. Yeah, so we're in Mount Pleasant, Texas, which is very close to the Louisiana border. We're going to be driving here for the next few hours, ending up near Lafayette, Louisiana. That's where we're going to spend the night. We've got a hotel just outside of town. Plan is to wake up first thing tomorrow in Lafayette, head a little bit south, and deploy some surge probes in the Bay region there, where they're expecting storm surge in excess of 9 feet, which is going to wreak havoc on that area because it's very flat out there, so not much to stop that water. And I mean, let's pull up maps here. Actually, we've got the storm surge inundation map right here. So you can see we've got the Louisiana coast here, and if you just kind of think about it, you've got a swirling storm system out here, and all on this eastern side, as you know, these winds come around, it's going to push all that water on the eastern side up and onto the land. So with the storm track going right about between Lafayette and Lake Charles, maybe a little closer to Lake Charles, you can imagine on that eastern side, as those winds come around, it's just going to be pushing all that water, especially into this bay here. So we're going to deploy some surge probes here on, this is Sippermore Point. This is where one of them is probably going to go, and then we might do another one somewhere in this general vicinity. A lot of small towns out there. The thing is, this hurricane's kind of threading the needle between these two population densities as far as where the strongest winds are going to be. We've got Lake Charles here, which obviously was impacted by Category 4 Hurricane Laura just weeks ago, and then we've got Lafayette here. And the track currently, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these spaghetti models. The track has it kind of split, but a little bit closer to Lake Charles. That's a really bad situation because obviously they're still in the works of picking up everything from the Category 4 Hurricane Laura, and we've been seeing a lot of social media images of tarps all over roofs. Those adjusters, y'all that are out there right now, I'm sure you are very familiar with that. They clearly are not ready for something like this, and we've got a lot of things like, you know, trees that were able to withstand Laura, but their root system has been disrupted, and we're going to have rainfall with winds. I mean, it doesn't take a lot for some of those trees to start coming down, especially if they've been, for lack of a better term, shook loose from Hurricane Laura. And so we're definitely going to be seeing some impacts, even if it doesn't make a direct landfall on Lake Charles or Lafayette. It's a pretty big system right now. It's expanded a lot within the last 24 hours, so it's going to have a pretty wide wind field that's going to envelop a decent amount of Louisiana, of southwestern Louisiana, with at least tropical storm force winds. So we're going to be expecting to see a lot of damage like that, but thankfully the winds that could be near Category 2, potentially even higher in Category 2 at landfall, they are going to probably remain in areas that are not very highly populated. I guess we can let's go over here to Google Maps. We'll take a look at some of the cities within that area. And once again, apologies for the technical issues earlier. This city does not have great cell service in certain portions of it, so yeah, and actually we're starting to get worse cell service here.
I'm gonna flip around right here, actually, just so we stay in town here.
Yeah, so I'm here with my chase partner, Evan Hatch. He's intercepted numerous hurricanes, including Category 5 Hurricane Michael, which hit just about a year ago at this time. Do you want to talk?
2 years ago.
2 years ago at this time. You want to talk a little bit about that while I pull up some of these cities?
Yeah, absolutely. Hurricane Michael, hurricane intercept that I've ever had. It was the third strongest storm system to make impact in the United States since records have been kept since the late 1800s. So where we made our intercept was just to the east of Panama City, near Tyndall Air Force Base, actually on Tyndall Air Force Base directly, which was right in the absolute worst conditions of Hurricane Michael. Made the mistake of being a little too confident and having a lot of bravado, and we rode it out in a Honda Civic. Not recommended, seeing as where we were was in the worst part of the storm, and we were in 155 to 180 mile an hour winds for about 25 to 30 minutes. It was very intense, and I would not recommend ever doing anything like that again. It humbled me and gave me a lot of respect for these storm systems, for sure.
And thankfully, we're not dealing with quite that magnitude of a hurricane right now. A lot of systems have obviously been traversing the Gulf over the last few months, and that has helped to diminish the potential threat of this system as they've upwelled cooler water. When you have all those disruptions going through areas, especially the shallow water closer to the shore that was extremely disrupted by Sally. We obviously had Hurricane Laura, as we've been discussing, and numerous other tropical depressions and storms that basically churns up all that warm water and brings up cooler water from below. So we could have been looking at a much worse situation with this hurricane had we not had all those other hurricanes, but you know, it's just hurricanes on top of hurricanes, so not a great situation regardless. Let's go ahead and take a look at Google Maps, and basically it looks like it's going to be probably making landfall about somewhere around Lake Arthur as of the latest model guidance. This is a little bit further west than we were thinking a few days ago, and it does still have the potential to even go right up, similar to, like we've been saying, Laura path, where it goes through Cameron, which was heavily damaged by Laura, and it might impact the Lake Charles area with a bit more severe winds than we may have thought a few days ago. But Lake Arthur is one of the places we're looking at intercepting. Of course, we go back to that storm surge inundation map, and you can see this is where Lake Arthur is. If it'll load that last square there. Yeah, there's Lake Arthur, and you can see quite a bit of inundation. The red is 9 feet of storm surge, the yellow being, I believe, 6 feet. And I mean, that's an issue, especially when you only have 1 or 2 roads going in and out of there, with a lot of these little canals and streams and passages. I mean, you're in the bayou basically, so there's a lot that can sneak up on you. It's not like you know, the coast of Florida, where you're right there on the water, you know exactly where it stops and ends. Here you've got all these little inlets and channels, and it can be very confusing and very dangerous. So we don't want to get too confident with this and get trapped somewhere, but we also want to be as close to the water, to the shore as possible, because the winds greatly diminish the further inland you are due to friction. So we definitely want to kind of find that perfect little spot that doesn't put us in too much danger with surge, but still allows us to get dramatic footage. Now, as far as deployment opportunities for this system, we have quite a bit of people down in that area already. working Hurricane Laura. We've got people being deployed further east in Alabama for Hurricane Sally. This is thankfully not going to hit as populated. Well, that's not necessarily true, because this might end up going through Lake Charles. We're not entirely sure yet, and they might be receiving more damage. But it is going to be, thankfully, a weakening system compared to those two, which we're still strengthening. And
which makes a big difference.
It makes quite the world of difference. So we'll probably see quite quick reduction in those winds, especially the further inland you get. It's going to be weakening pretty fast. So we're crossing our fingers. Obviously not a good situation with these further west tracks showing Lake Charles getting in those stronger winds, potentially even in the eye wall. Basically, if you're in Lake Charles right now deployed, I would highly recommend maybe taking a jaunt to the west and going to Houston for the weekend. Play it safe. You'll probably be okay if you have to ride it out in your hotel there. But you run the risk of having, potentially trees fall on your car. You might have issues with some inland flooding due to just the rain. This won't be a giant rainmaker as it's moving relatively fast, but still, with a tropical system, you're going to run the risk of flash flooding because there's just, quite a bit of rain. So this is something you want to take seriously if you're deployed in that area. I would recommend going to Houston for the weekend if you have the availability. It's not like you're going to be able to run claims anyway, and this definitely has the potential. I mean, it's kind of an interesting situation because we might be looking at some re-inspections on properties that have already been scoped, but now obtain additional damage from this storm. So that'll be kind of curious to see how that goes, and we're crossing our fingers for the best case scenario. Currently, it's it's still strengthening. Its presentation is not quite as definitive as it was earlier. We really could see the eye very, very clearly earlier, and now it's kind of been covered by all this convection or thunderstorm growth. Still no signs of weakening currently. Probably won't.
Nighttime is generally when these systems strengthen. As the air temperature lowers, you get more convection. Like he was saying, those vigorous thunderstorm activity, you're going to get more of that around the center. So generally in the evenings are when these hurricanes do strengthen. So
exactly.
So believing that it will maintain strength overnight is definitely not out of the question for sure.
And we're looking at probably a Category 3, potentially even getting into the higher end Category 3 territory through the rest of tonight before encountering the shear like we talked about that basically rips the storm apart, plus those cooler waters closer to the coast. So it kind of might be too little too late if this storm really strengthens tonight and has a fast approach. It will be weakening, but if it's a strong Category 3 tomorrow morning, that still potentially brings in a strong to moderate Category 2 to an area that really does not need to see something like that. So ultimately the message is this is an unprecedented situation because we've had it's record landfall.
It is already.
The United States.
It is already this year, and we're not through the season just yet either.
Exactly. There's still potential for stuff further down the stream. I mean, we're still in hurricane season. There's still some potential, especially in the southern Gulf. Places like South Florida would be the most likely scenario for any additional systems. Not anything on the radar just yet, but there's always potential. Whoops, did I screw something? Nope, we're good. But we're going to be wrapping it up here. As we were saying, unprecedented hurricane season. This is going to be the first time a Greek-named storm has ever made landfall in the United States as a hurricane, and it might be one that we remember for a while. So stay safe, everybody. We are going to be going live tomorrow, assuming we don't have connection issues.